Lumineers. Welcome back to video 5 of our Intro to Lorcana series. This is the last game mechanics video that we'll have, but we are going to be releasing videos following this one, going over each specific color of ink and kind of like deck choices, deck color combinations, and stuff like that. And today we're going to go over what we kind of think of as like advanced game mechanics. Some of the things we're going to kind of go over is what everybody calls the bag, which we'll get into soon. And then uh, some of your cards seeing songs to proc effects, moving damage, and how it will affect cards with resist and cards like Hydra, which we figured out right before this video, which is kind of funny. Um, so we're gonna kind of roll right into the bag. And Jose is gonna take it off.
All right, yeah. So the bag is the imaginary zone in Lorcana where all triggered abilities kind of sit while you resolve them. In Magic and other games, they have like the stack. It's kind of just the resolution area. But the way Ravensburger has put it is that it is like putting all triggered abilities into the bag, like as if they were marbles. The active player is able to resolve those, take one out at a time, and resolve them in whichever order they choose. Um, so in with the example cards here, uh, Merlin Goat, when it enters play, you gain one lore, and the Magic Broom, when you play another character, you can banish it to draw a card. So, for those not in Australia, you're able to, if you have the broom on board, you can quest with it, um, play Merlin Goat. You'll gain one lore, and you can resolve the trigger of the broom to banish to draw a card. So you'll gain one lore from the goat. You'll draw a card off of the broom. Um, Again, other effects we see that kind of work with these similar interactions are with Madame Mim, the fox, and the snake. Both of them, when they interplay, you have to banish a character or bounce a character back to your hand or banish her. The same way, Merlin Goat would gain one lore if you choose to bounce the goat back when you play the fox or the snake. So this is just like I said, overall is just the area where all the triggers will go and be resolved one at a time by active players. If there are triggers that affect both players, active player resolves first, and then the non-active player or opponent will resolve their triggers.
Yeah. So it's just very important that essentially, if you really want to think of it down at the end of the day, when an effect happens, all triggers that have been made, which in this case, playing the Merlin goat while the broom was on the field, you would automatically, you do not need to announce them, that got overridden. Uh, so the you may banish this character to draw a card, that text goes into the bag, the gain one lore goes into the bag, and then you just kind of pull them out. So, and that can be a lot of different effects that are all in the bag at once, which can be a little confusing when you get into it first. But I find it's a nice mechanic because some you may want to, if they're both in the bag, draw a card first to get more information before you trigger the next effect in the bag, because that can give you more information, and knowledge is power.
I mean,
Um,
yeah,
oh,
the bag is supposed to be more user friendly versus other
Yeah, like
mechanisms that are used in other games. Which, yeah, like the Magic
the
stack gets
stack.
very complicated quickly. I don't know. In Yu-Gi-Oh, is it a chain? Is it link?
Yeah, in
oh
Yu-Gi-Oh! It's a
gosh.
chain, which is also very complicated.
Yeah. So there's like I said,
Because it's
this is
like trigger,
designed to be
trigger,
simple.
trigger, trigger. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Um,
I can appreciate that from playing Magic, that I much prefer this sort of basic interaction, and I can resolve things. I think it just makes the game flow a lot simpler
much
and
easier. Yeah, for
easier
sure.
to
Mhm.
digest.
One thing I did want to say, because this is something that I struggled with a little bit whenever I did play a little bit of Amethyst, was so say you have a broom on the field and you go to play a rabbit. So then both effects proc, and you can choose which one, like, so both effects will go into the bag. Generally, most people do rabbit first, because like you're always wanting to like draw to get a little bit more information, right? So you generally do rabbit first, and then you can choose to just kind of, Yu-Gi-Oh players are gonna hate this, but just kind of let this fizzle out. Effect doesn't happen if you
Sure.
choose not to draw. So like you're putting all these effects in your bag, and you say, I'm gonna draw for rabbit. Cool, you got the card you exactly needed. You don't need to draw off a broom anymore, kind of situation. So
Yep, you found your
it
inkable.
yeah, so it can be sometimes like sometimes the bag just kind of like empties itself. So
Yeah,
like I
and
don't want to say it fizzles because like as a Yu-Gi-Oh player, previous Yu-Gi-Oh player, like that's like a non-starter word. So
I'm not familiar with the Yu-Gi-Oh terms, but yeah,
yeah.
that can definitely happen where you just choose not to do one of the triggers if it is a you may ability.
Yeah.
Uh, some cards will have like it just says do the thing, like Merlin Goat, gain one lore. You don't get to choose
Hmm.
to not gain one lore. Uh, if for some reason
If
you
you
wanted
didn't
to
want
not,
it,
if you
If you
didn't
didn't
want it,
want
if the
to, yeah.
object of the game was to get the least lore possible, why are you playing Goat in the deck? I guess at that
Yeah.
point.
But
another one of those effects are kind of like dock. How sometimes you get stuck with two docks in hand and you
mhm.
don't necessarily want to toss the other, so you can play it and just decline the effect of
Mhm.
Yep,
Yep.
exactly.
Yeah. And we kind of went over mandatory effects and like optional effects essentially, or may effects as we like to like call them last week, but um this is just another example of a mandatory effect. The goat, you are getting the lore when it leaves and when it enters for sure. It's not a question. And then the Merlin rabbit effect, where it says when it enters and leaves play, you may draw a card. So optional effect here, mandatory effect here. I feel like that's like mandatory and optional effects.
Yeah,
Reading are hard.
hey, it can be sometimes.
It can be. It can be. I
High
can't lie.
stress uh, environment.
Alrighty. And then we're gonna move down to what I feel like is still such a highly controversial like effect is the Diablo and the Let the Storm Rage On. And people still ask if you can draw off of the Diablo
Yeah,
and the
and
storm. So
so to start off, for those that don't know the ability of Diablo and have not heard all the rage of people wanting to ban the bird, uh, Diablo is a 3 cost uninkable 2/2 stat line. Quest for one has a shift mechanic onto it, usually the one drop Diablo, where you can discard an action card and then shift it. You don't have to pay any ink to shift that card. Has evasive, so it is hard to challenge down because you have to have an invasive character to challenge it. And then during each opponent's turn, whenever they draw a card, while this character is exerted, you may draw a card. So you can imagine they shift this as early and quest with it or sing with it as early as turn 2. It is exerted. I go to draw a card for my turn. We draw a card, and you hopefully you don't get that level of trigger that
DJ's
I do
favorite
when someone says that. My opponent actually last weekend, Dragon Sword, he knew not to say those words, and because
because of
he
our
said
video.
because of our video, he said, "I know not to say that." So he changed his verbiage of when he drew with me. Um,
it. DJ doing the Lord's work.
That's
yeah.
funny.
No, he's a nice guy. Uh, the play here is playing Let the Storm Rage On, which deals 2 damage to chosen character, draw a card. So it has 2 effects within 1 card here. So this is a very common situation that I've been in, and I'm sure Tanya as well, playing Amber Steel. This is a very we've had this play probably I don't know how many hundreds of times between the two of us
Mhm.
probably,
Yeah.
where they have an exerted Diablo. We need to kill or banish, sorry, that Diablo. So we either play or sing Let the Storm Rage On to deal 2 damage to that Diablo. And then as part of it, that deal 2 damage to chosen character goes in the bag and then we also have the draw a card ability that goes into the bag, and we deal the 2 damage to the Diablo. The Diablo has 2 damage on it. Everything within the bag needs to resolve before Diablo is actually banished. So the unique situation here is when this card came out, we all thought we deal 2 damage to the Diablo, he's banished.
He's
And,
gone
and now I
forever.
get to draw a card, and he doesn't get to draw with me. But that's not actually the case with how the bag works because we dealt the 2 damage, we draw the card, their trigger of us drawing the card is in the bag, and then after all the bag is empty from us dealing 2 damage to them, drawing our card, they have now had the trigger of drawing their card because they get to choose whether or not they want to draw off of Diablo, and then damage is essentially calculated, and then the game state will see that Diablo has 2 damage on it, Diablo only has 2 willpower, Diablo is thus banished. It's not until that point that he goes away. He's that pesky.
And the drawing a card is a mandatory effect. It
Yes.
says draw a card.
Yes. And
I
you
think
always,
it's also important to note that turn player will always have priority here.
yep,
So your effect is going to resolve completely. And then you will draw, and then their effect will resolve completely. So whoever is
yep,
turn player
yep.
has
And
priority.
technically, Diablo's trigger wouldn't even go into the bag until you drew that card.
Hmm.
Uh, but there will be some where they all happen at the same time, but it would always be, yes, the turn player and then the opponent.
Hmm. What were you going to say? Sorry, I cut you off.
Oh, I was just saying, with these cards that have mandatory, you always do as much of the card as possible. So that's one of the things that we may have mentioned in another, but let Storm Rage on. You can play on an empty board and it will deal no damage, but you'll still be able to draw the card.
I think something to note that we actually have like not talked about at all because you said that because you resolve the card as much as possible. um so we kind of spoke in a previous video about like non-targeting versus targeting effects.
Hmm.
So if by chance you say you want to you play Storm Rage on, and their character has ward, but you have two characters on the board, and they can be chosen for the damage. Uh, that card, it doesn't just like fizzle out. You can't take it back, especially in like a tournament scenario. Like at a regular locals, they might let you take it back, but that damage is done to your character. Um, Same with Brawl.
Say
Like
this is like
I
Cogsworth and Brawl.
Yeah, like exactly. Like oh my gosh, like it's happened actually a lot recently, I feel like. It literally happened to Zark like 2 weeks ago. He was playing red blue, or sorry, ruby sapphire, and he brawled somebody's character that had ward, and he was like, "Oh, does this just mean that I have to like brawl my Hiram?" And Corey was like, "Yes, that's that's
Yeah,
how
that
that
happened to
works."
someone at
Yeah.
RC too.
Yeah, so that's something to keep in mind is like you have to make sure you're reading your opponent's cards as well. Like it's or at least like know the cards like generally that are being played or popularly played is like what has ward and what doesn't, cuz that can
Yeah.
mess you up real bad.
Yeah. And that's a great point that everyone who knows me will not like me saying this, but slow down. and
Lucas.
uh,
Lucas.
and take a look at uh walk through your play first before you play brawl on a warded character. Like go through your checks in your play of do they have ward? No. Okay, good. We're good. Some people are just very fast in how they play and they won't
Mhm.
pay attention to that, and it can cost you the game. And another advanced mechanic that leads from that is shame conceding because you're so shameful of having brawled your own Hiram. That's what I would do if I ever did that. Pay 3 ink to get rid of one of the most broken characters in the game.
Yeah, I cry a little. I'm not
Yep,
gonna lie.
your pride might be hurt.
What is pride?
You
uh
guys just told on Zarek. That was.
No,
I know you
when it
name dropped
happened,
him.
I was like, I was like, Zarek? because he like looked at Corey. I think like he was hoping Corey would give him confirmation, and it didn't happen. I'm not gonna lie, it was kind of funny. I was like, he probably had another Hiram in hand though. Let's be honest. Derek always has
That
like
just
the
shows
nuts.
you it can happen to anyone.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Alrighty, we're gonna swing into our next bag interaction. We had 3 like really important bag interactions that we wanted to go over with you guys, simply because they're some of the more popular interactions that have been happening. Oh, sorry about that. Some of the more popular interactions that have been happening more recently. And it's the muses. I said the muses interaction only, but like realistically, it's like singing with the muses and specifically double singing with Ursula, deceiver of all, plus the muses. So you guys got that.
Yep.
I think DJ
Uh,
could take that one if because we were like in depth talking about that one like right before the Jose joined. So
yeah. So first to start off, we want to kind of talk about the interaction with the muses when, especially when you're double singing. So to start off with, we'll start off with any character, as long as they're not what Ariel without a voice,
hmm
whatever that glimmer is called, uh, can
the one
sing
with
a
feet,
song. Yeah, the yeah, they did conveniently did not put the feet in that picture.
the
Uh,
one with the feet.
yeah. So any character can sing a song, and the muses have a very unique ability of whenever you play a song, whether it be sung by a character or just played by paying ink, you may return chosen character with 2 power or less to their player's hand. That can be your own character, even, because that can sometimes be beneficial. So let's say I have any character on the board that is eligible to sing Sun Chill, for example. I either play Sun Chill or sing Sun Chill. Sun Chill goes into the bag. That is then resolved along with any other triggers from that song that is played. Uh, then, after each opponent has chosen and discarded a card from Sun Chill's ability, Muses is then triggered. Muse then goes into the bag. So you cannot choose to bounce a character with Muse's ability and then have them discard a card. You would have them discard a card beforehand. Same thing goes with We Don't Talk About Bruno, which has a similar effect where return chosen character to that player's hand, and then they discard a card at random. So you can't have a character bounced from We Don't Talk About Bruno to their hand, and then also a character bounced from Muses, and then they discard a card at random. You have to resolve We Don't Talk About Bruno first before then bouncing the character with Muses. Uh, so that's kind of the base layer of it. And then we have the wonderful, very honestly, in my opinion, one of the best artworks for Enchanted. I really like the Deceiver of All Enchanted.
So
Uh,
pretty.
obviously did not pull that one though. But Ursula Deceiver of All is a 3 cost inkable 2/3 quest for 1 with their signature ability of when it sings a song, they may play that song again from the discard pile after they've sung the song. And if you do that, then that song goes to the bottom of your deck. So a very strong ability if you think about them being able to sing, say, Sudden Chill twice. Now you played 1 card and Ursula just sang it twice for them to discard 2 cards. So kind of doubling your value on that. And that can be combined with Sing Together cards, which I believe
Under the
we
sea.
may have talked about in some previous videos.
Yeah, we did.
So that you can, I don't know why you would play Under the Sea twice to put
Pirate's
all
Life.
the characters.
Pirate's Life. That's
Pirate's
what we
Life.
Okay,
mean.
Pirate's
Yeah.
Light. Yeah, I was like Under the Sea. All the under 2 go to the bottom of your deck. Now
I was
all the
thinking
under
about
2 go to the
Emerald.
bottom of your deck. Oh wait, they're already there. Uh, no, you're good. Uh, but yes, so Ursula sings Sun Chill while a Muse is on board. So that Sun Chill goes into the bag. Sun Chill resolves just as a normal playing of that song would go. And then after it resolves, then Ursula's ability. So I would put Ursula in the bag, Ursula's ability of you may play that song again into the bag, and Muses would go into the bag. And now Sudden Chill's been resolved. It's in our discard right now. So then I can now choose in this case to either bounce a character with Muses from that first song that was played, or I can go ahead and sing that other song again, which would then give another trigger of the Muses at that point, and then bounce two characters. So you can kind of see how that sequence of events needs to happen, where that first one will resolve, which then triggers you may sing it again, and then also the Muses bouncing ability, and then resolve them as you would see fit. Any other? I know that there are plenty of songs that can be applied to this, but I know Ursula Deceiver of All singing things twice throws a unique scenario into
Mhm.
the bag. No pun intended.
I think um, I can't think of anything. I was just gonna say like so because it's Deceiver of Osmond is being played in green or emerald steel significantly more like recently. They took it out for a while and it's like back. Um when you I know because I'm super guilty of this. When I did play Emerald Steel and got my Let It Go. Sorry.
Bucky.
It was Bucky. It was before Bucky was eroded. But I was like really quick to like snap, like do the effect. Back then we didn't play muses and now Green Steel or Emerald Steel does. So I would just say what just to reiterate what DJ said earlier, like slow down cuz like you might try to like banish something. Like do the Ursula effect. I would say do the Muses effect, then do the Ursula effect again, then do the Muses effect again. Because like sometimes you're just like, oh yeah, kill or banish both of these things and then bounce both of these things. But like you might have wanted to do something different. You might accidentally bounce, and a lot of people, especially in a tournament scenario, are not going to let you like take stuff like that back. So
Yeah,
just like I'm really snappy sometimes when I play like Steel. I'm just like, get rid of this, get rid of this, get rid of this.
yeah,
Ursula Deceiver was I was a menace with her when I did play, but we never played muses, so I didn't have to worry about bouncing a card back into their hand.
yeah. And it's a very strong ability, even with
Mhm.
uh, Ursula singing and Emerald Steel singing Strength of a Raging Fire or Let the Storm Rage On, using one of those triggers from the two songs of Muses to bounce one of their problematic characters back to hand, but then bouncing maybe your Ursula back to your hand even with the second trigger because maybe you want to protect
Rip
your
another
Ursula,
song. Oh,
uh,
I was gonna say I
protect
thought
your
you were talking
Ursula as
about
well if
yeah,
they
yeah,
have
yeah.
something like a Maui ready to just whack
Push into
your
it,
Ursula
yeah.
who's now vulnerable because it's exerted. So a lot of different scenarios. So just know that you have a lot of options,
I
and
know
that'll kind of be
Muses
your
is
skill
played
expression.
a lot. I think it makes it higher skill a little bit with Emerald Steel, but like I know Wonder, I think,
Hmm.
and
And I know
Bannable
Zan and
and and
Wonder,
and
they
Zan, yeah, they all played like one or two muses, or it was like two muses and then like one single Anna, and they just kept bouncing and like cycling the. That's actually like one of those like infinity loop kind of things where they would just like you have one on they have one Anna in their deck and they're just like playing it over and over and over and just like pinging your stuff and then banishing it. So like yeah, no muses can be
or Doc.
scary or Doc, yeah, it's
Yep.
scary. But it's good. So, but yeah, is that? I think that's it for the muses interaction. That was like the big thing. If that is like confusing to you guys, just let us know. Like, join the discords and we can kind of like talk to you about it a little bit more. I definitely know that that interaction, especially for me, was like the bag.
Yeah,
Like, it took me a while to learn how to chain things in Yu-Gi-Oh. You'd think the bag would be easier, but I'm just
yeah,
That
and
the
simple.
muse is one of those effects that I think until you're either playing it or playing against it and seeing it in person, it
Yeah.
doesn't. It's a little bit of a word soup until you actually see the way it physically kind of interacts on the board.
Yeah, no,
yeah,
I agree with that for sure.
yeah. Always ask, and even if you're in a tournament and ask for a judge. So
Mhm.
call for a judge to make sure that, if you don't believe something is being done properly, but also be open to challenge your own thoughts on how something is done. Because when a new mechanic comes out, or these cards, for example, just came out, a lot of people had differing opinions, and it wasn't until we kind of broke it all down together. Uh, there's no need to kind of want to try to fight someone at a event over what has been made the ruling in the official Lorcana companion app. Uh, so just be open to being wrong. It's okay. We've all been wrong at some point.
I'm never wrong. I'm just
Uh,
kidding. Just kidding. Just kidding. Okay, we're moving into my favorite one.
hmm,
Using things for shift. Do you want to do this one, TJ?
I can. So yes, so when you're shifting a character, you are paying typically a lower cost for that shift. So an example of this, if you want to even use Cinderella or Ariel down below and make it larger. So Cinderella Stout-Hearted is a 7 ink cost character with a shift 5. So you have to pay 5 ink to shift any other Cinderella card into this Cinderella. So only need to pay 5 ink. Great. Just in time allows you to play a character with cost 5 or less for free. That does not apply to the shifted cost. You cannot use it to shift a character. You would need to This Cinderella Stouthearted would need to be a overall 5 cost or less character. So it does not apply to that. Whereas Zero to Hero, which is a song where you count the number of characters you have in play and you pay that amount less for the next character you play this turn. So that can be done to play a character that's not a shift, but it does modify not only a regular character. So if I had 2 characters on board and I just wanted to play Cinderella Stout-Hearted, not shifting, I would have to pay 5 ink. But if I had a Cinderella on the board and I had 2 total characters, then I only need to pay 3 to shift that Cinderella into this very powerful card here. So there are some differences of essentially cost manipulation when it says a character with cost 5 or less that does not take into account any modifiers like shift or anything like that. That looks at the static top left corner of the card, very, I say black and white there, whereas cost reduction does apply to the shift like Zero to Hero does here.
I mean, to me though, the difference in these two cards, like it comes down to kind of verbiage of
Mhm.
like Zero to Hero saying pay that amount of ink versus Just in Time saying cost 5 or less. That to me is kind of like, because I'm not 100% on this interaction. I've never used those
Oh,
two cards, but that's
oh
sort of the way I see it.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's kind of like, is it's about the verbiage of it, and which would come into play when you're shifting a character.
This is just like so. Oh crap! I just did that. Hold on, 2 seconds. So when we say when Just in Time says play a character with cost 5 or less, cost is not cost is not the shift. Cost is always what is surrounded by the inkable or uninkable distinction. So Cindy is a 7, Belle is a 5. So Belle could come in for 3 on turn 3.
Yeah.
Um,
And it
that's
also
like
importantly looks at the printed value as well. So it doesn't take into account, for example, if you have a 5 cost, uh, prince or king, or no, if you have a Pride Lands out and you have a
yeah.
prince or king at Pride Lands, which
Oh,
makes
the
you pay 1 less for any character you play,
Hmm.
it doesn't see that. So your 6 cost characters in your hand that you would normally need to pay now 5 for because you have a 1 cost reduction, you still can't use just in time to play that character
Yeah,
because that
that's 6
character
cost.
does not cost 5 or less. It costs
Mhm.
6 before those reductions.
Yeah. That was like a really complicated thing for me to get in set 1. I don't know why, cuz I played Just in Time and I was like, "But I don't understand why I can't shift this." And it was also like the beginning of like everything. So
Yeah,
I don't know.
everyone was
It was
getting used to
yeah,
things.
clarification on stuff was like real weird. Um, but yeah. And this kind of dives us into our next little bundle of joy.
Yeah,
Mostly the zero to hero. So
yeah. So most people know that Little Cinderella likes to become Big Cinderella and shift into that because it's very powerful. Some people don't like it, but I always play this character. So uh, Cinderella Stout-Hearted, this 7 cost character, has an ability of whenever you play a song, this character may challenge ready characters this turn, which is a very powerful effect. So let's take the scenario where we have a Little Cinderella that does not have that ability. The song A song is played, whether that be zero to hero to hopefully cheat out the cost to get that Cinderella shifted in, or another song. Uh, and then you play the Cinderella Stout-Hearted shifting onto that Little Cinderella. The Big Cinderella did not see that song played because it uses the verbiage of whenever you play a song. This has come up at I know down at CCS down in
CCS,
Atlanta. It was
DLCs. No.
at DLCs. It's come up where people have said, hey, I played a song, so and the Little Cinderella saw it, but the Little Cinderella did not have this ability to trigger to that effect. So similar to the Aerial Sonic Warrior on the left is also whenever you play a song, you can't play a song, shift into this Sonic Warrior and now be like, oh, well, I played a song a little bit ago. Let me pay 2 ink and deal 3 damage to chosen character. That's not how the ability works. Whereas you have cards like Sleepy's Flute, where it very much distinctively says if you played a song this turn, gain 1 lore. So if you're playing now, unless it comes back into favor, uh, Sleepy's Flute was a item that saw a lot of play in Amber Steel decks where I could sing a whole new world to get 7 new cards. I replayed my song, play a couple Sleepy's flutes, and then exert them to gain 1 lore from their ability because I played a song this turn already. So then you kind of just start play one song a turn, get free lore. So it was a very powerful strategy. So that kind of highlights the distinction between the whenever you play a song, that has to be when I play a song, X effect happens, which the effect for Cinderella is giving her the ability to challenge ready characters this turn, and Ariel being when I play a song, at that point goes in the bag of okay, great, you played a song. Now I may choose to pay 2 ink to deal 3 damage to chosen character. So kind of almost even linking it back into our bag conversation because that is what is happening is the whenever you play that trigger is going into the bag,
Hmm.
either giving a static effect in the form of Cinderella where now for the rest of her turn she can challenge ready characters, and then Ariel being a one-time use of you may do this effect.
Makes
uh,
sense.
Yeah. Just note, Cinderella Stout-Hearted. It is listed in the Lorcana companion app. That is one that is listed in there. If you find the Cinderella Stout-Hearted card in their companion app database, it has additional information. So Ravensburger likes to put in some of those interactions when it comes into a common question that has been asked. Odds are you may find it there. So that can be very helpful. Um, because usually that means it's probably come up multiple times.
It has come up
Yes.
so much. It was like a real uh like point of contention, I think, in like the Vegas DLC because there were so
Mm,
many people, and I was just like hearing it all over the place. Because that was like the one DLC I went to that I was just an attendee, so I was like walking around a lot. But a lot of people said that they were like running into that interaction where, I think Steel Song was like huge at that time.
Yeah,
Um,
it
and
was
like
popular.
everybody literally just like picked the deck up, went to Vegas and like hoped to like top and
yeah.
didn't understand like how like the interaction worked with the Cinderella. So yeah, just I think picking a deck up and going to an event's like insane. I like test so much before I go to
Yeah,
events.
I
I
did
couldn't
that.
imagine.
I pretty much only play in the tournaments. Like
Yeah.
that's
Yeah, but
pretty
you
much
also
it.
play the same deck, so it's like,
Well, I mean, I played at CCS in what April last year, the first one, and
oh yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
had never tried out Amber Ruby Mufasa, and I made it to day two. Uh,
You're
and then
better.
yeah, well, my opponent missed a "You May" ability trigger, and then
We like that.
decided to, oh, I forgot to do that. You draw a card trigger at the beginning of turn, and then I was naive and also conflict averse, so I didn't call a judge on that because it had passed the window in which you could do that because it was
Hmm.
past the beginning of the turn, and that's what ended up losing me the game. But it was fun.
CCS is always a good time. If you guys are ever in Atlanta, you should totally head over to CCS during one of their 8 or 10Ks for Lorcana. They do one every
Char-
release. Yeah,
Char-
every set.
yep, Charlie's
And
collectible show.
oh yeah, Charlie's Collectible Show.
Yeah,
It's in Stone Mountain. It's not technically in Atlanta, but it's like right on the outskirts.
Close enough.
East, right?
I think it's East, yeah. And I
Yeah,
think their next one is the end
March.
of March. They're doing it. The 22nd or 23rd and the 24th or something like that. Um,
Maybe the same day as Worlds. We don't know.
we'll
When is
never
Worlds?
know. But yeah, I digress. Back to the the intro to Lorcana video. So our last visual that we have for you guys is the damage move. Um, I guess realistically, I also probably should have added in mosquito bite because it also, I
Just
believe,
puts a
gets
damage counter on it,
yeah.
so you can do that
Um,
to Cinderella style hardy. Yeah,
mhm, mhm. Mosquito bite is a emerald one drop action that I
Yep.
think literally just says put a damage counter on a
Put
character.
put
Yeah,
one
it
damage
just put a
counter.
damage, yeah. And it so it kind of like ties into the moving damage effect that Jose is gonna go over for us.
Yep, sure. Um, yeah. So again, like you can see right there on Bell, it
Oh,
says when this character, when you play this character, you may move up to 3 damage to a chosen character. I think it's three.
chosen opposing character.
Chosen opposing character. So you move those damage counters optimally from one of your characters to the other one to an opposing character. You're going to move hopefully up to 3 and get all 3. But when you move it to that, if it's a character like,
Cindy or Calhoun.
yeah, Big Cindy or Calhoun, something that has resist, um, that resist is not seen by this because you're moving damage counters versus dealing damage. Resist specifically specifies when that character is dealt damage, it's reduced by 1. So if you move all 3 counters to Cindy, resist isn't seen, and it just takes 3 damage directly placed on it. I know this is in Pokemon. There's a big difference between moving damage versus dealing damage. And I think this is probably as close as it kind of gets to blurring those lines and kind of being overlapping. Again, Madam Mim, the elephant, similar process. I think it's the start of your turn. Is that right? I cannot see.
At the start of your turn, you may move up to 2 damage counters from this character to chosen opposing character. And
Right, so it'd
then
be the
Juju is
same
the
same
same
thing.
thing. Yeah. It's just one,
yep.
two, three.
Okay, so
I
yeah,
should
so
have
you're
put them in
moving an
order.
amount of damage.
Yeah.
You're just moving the amount of damage to opposing chosen characters, and
Mhm.
again,
Yeah.
like I said, and that doesn't, same way that only an exerted character can be challenged. These characters, when this effect can be placed onto a readied character, as long as they don't have ward. And like I said, so that's another way around, another way you can use this and utilize it to kind of gain yourself some advantage.
It's a real easy way to get rid of Calhoun.
Yeah, yeah,
The bell. The bell was like a menace. I know Calhoun like took over a lot of like especially like the Diggy deck. Um even some Amber Steel song players play it, and then I think it was like Sapphire still was playing it, and a lot of Amethyst Ruby players were just like teching in the like one or two of Bell, and it just hurts even more in Amethyst too because you just bounce it back with Snake or Fox and they just keep
You
doing
can
it.
get those
Yeah.
effects over and over.
Yeah. So it can be pretty good. Um
Yeah. Another interaction with it that's common that I would see in Amber Steel songs, which is what I play, is in Amber Steel songs, you have this fine balance of wanting to sometimes have some damage counters on one of your characters because as soon as you rip that Rapunzel gifted with healing, you get to heal up to 3 damage counters and then draw that many cards. It can be sometimes hard when you are playing against Amethyst if you feel that they may be playing this Bell Accomplished Mystic, since this is the only one of these 3 cards that we're showing that really sees competitive play.
mhm.
But it doesn't specify that they have to move the damage counters from one of their own characters. So
It's
I've had
any.
it before where they take the 3 damage counters off of my Ursula Vanessa, which is a 1/4 that I have prepped for healing it with Rapunzel, and then they move those 3 damage counters onto my Ariel Spectacular Singer, and then I
Mhm.
cry because they
You've
are
lost them
playing
both.
Bellicos. Yep. Well, my Ursula is now healed now, so that's
You lose the
positive.
card
They
draw
healed
and you
my
lose
Ursula.
Ariel. That's no fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
It's rough.
I just have to hope that I get that back. But it's a good play by the Amethyst player to do that. Obviously, if they have um, damage on one of their own characters, they still may even choose to heal your characters of damage to banish one of your other characters just because of the threat of Rapunzel. That's how powerful Rapunzel gifted with healing is. And Amethyst already has a lot of card draw. So it's mainly going to try to usually outdraw you. And if I don't have Rapunzel gifted with healing, I'm having to maybe pull that ripcord of playing a whole new world then,
Yep.
which is not always ideal, especially if I've lost the board.
Yep.
But yeah,
That is I think those were the main thing. Oh, one other one with the move damage that we were
mhm.
talking about right before the video was Hydra. Is that a set 2
uh,
legendary?
it is set 3.
Set 3 legendary Hydra. It is a ruby card. It says when this character is dealt damage, deal the same amount of damage back to, or deal the same amount of damage to chosen character, right?
Yep,
Yeah,
chosen opposing
chosen
character.
opposing.
Yeah, chosen opposing character. This is also just like how resist is worded when the character is dealt damage, moving damage with one of these amethyst cards and mosquito bite. Surprisingly, I just thought about that card. Um, will not trigger that effect because it's not dealing damage. It is essentially placing it there. Um,
Yeah,
not that I don't think Hydra's played too often, but just some clarification for you guys.
I played it at that CCS
I was
Amber
gonna
Ruby
say I think that
Mufasa.
the Lily Fossa deck, or like not Lily Fossa, but just like the Mufasa Ruby, Amber Ruby Mufasa deck, some people like definitely do play
It's
that.
a tech card, yeah.
Yeah.
And I obviously have an affinity for anything Hercules, so if I can fit it in, I'm going to try to.
Was there anything else? I don't think so. This one was like a pretty simple, like short one, I think.
Yeah, this was mainly essentially not necessarily straightforward abilities, but really just reading into some of the more common interactions that happen in the more ambiguous verbiage on the cards. Because we can say, I know we mentioned it in our last video, but you can say, oh, just read the card and do what it says. Well, that's not always
Yeah.
super straightforward. And we're all about learning. Another advanced mechanic that we can say is, just be competitive, but you can also just be kind and be patient with yourself too. When you're learning these, you're going to have times where you misplay. I still will misplay my Daisy, not questing with it before I play a whole new world. So I'm pretty much just giving my opponent an extra card for no reason. So go
No,
through all
you
those
knew it was gonna
mechanics.
be a non-character card.
Yeah, I know. Even
Sometimes.
yeah, so it's great.
That's what I tell myself when I do
I
it too.
I kid you not, it was in the semifinals for House of Cards set champ, and
Mhm.
I was playing Blurple against Blurple,
Mhm.
Sapphire Amethyst, and I forgot to quest with Daisy, sung a whole new world, and then I was like, it actually ended up being the correct play of like, okay, then I'm gonna now quest with Daisy, and then I sang another whole new world because my hand was awful. So
Oh,
I was like, oh, never
jeez.
punished.
Never punished, always successful. That's what I say whenever I draw the one drop. Mulligan 7 cards to not see a one drop, draws it for turn.
Oh yeah.
But that was kind of the gist of this video, what we consider advanced game mechanics. If there is anything else that you guys would like to see, please let us know. This is kind of going to be, in my opinion, kind of like an ever growing um, series, most likely, because we're only in set 6 and currently we're getting releases for set 7 cards, and I already know that there is going to be stuff that we're going to have to go back over, because we definitely got some new character abilities, and we haven't even seen all of the cards yet. And Jafar is being speckled in everywhere because they're excited for set 8 as well. So I'm sure that we're going to be making another video following the deck colors, with a lot of the set 7 and set 8 stuff. So always just let us know if you guys have any questions. And as we always say, thank you to our sponsor, House of Cards, for always supporting Team Ohana. We love them very much in Winston-Salem. Also, don't forget, we are partner affiliates with Gem Tech Accessories. And if you guys want bag sleeves, deck boxes, just cool stuff for your TCG needs, check out the link below. You get 10% off. I think most of us either have a bag or want a bag.
Yeah.
I know I have a bag. Everybody
I,
like
I want a bag. If
the
anyone
bags are
really
super
likes this
nice.
contact, they can buy me a bag. Just kidding.
Amazon wish list here. Well, I
Yeah.
guess
My birthday's
Gemtech
in November.
accessories wish list.
I'm
But
waiting on my
those,
deck box from them.
the Magikarp.
The Magikarp deck
Oh,
box.
dude,
Ooh,
so
hope
many
it's
people bought the
shiny.
Magikarp deck box. I'm so excited to see who gets the shiny version. It's gonna be exciting.
Oh,
They
that'll be
also
sick.
just came out with the fanny pack. I say fanny pack, but it's like like a crossbody bag that can hold your deck. It can also hold your mat, which is kind of cool. Um, looks a little bulky. I don't know. I wouldn't use it. I love my book bag because it has all my Lorcana pins, but that link and that code will be listed below in the description. We will also have um, the link to the Google Drive because I forgot to put it in the previous videos. That'll be below as well with all of the visuals that we've used today and in previous videos. And the DisneyLorcana.com website will also be listed below for all of the resources that they provide as well. We want to thank you guys for joining us for the first section of this series, and we will see you in 2 weeks when we go over Amber and all of the wonderful deck choices that you can build with it. So, thank you again, and we'll see you guys next time.
See ya.